Okay, so I, 26 female, have a toddler son. His dad, 28 male, and I split when he was an infant. My ex's mom started pressuring him to be involved. This is when he threatened to take me to court. Fast forward, and our son had a birthday, and our court date finally came. He asked for full custody and it was denied. He ended up getting supervised visitation 3 days out of the week for 1 hour. He had to do parental classes, and they would slowly transition our son to spending more time with him. He was also told only to communicate with me if it involved our son. He wasn't happy with this, and neither was his mom. So he didn't show up for his visitation time with our son, and he regularly called and texted me telling me I was a horrible mother for not letting him just come pick him up and take him to the park instead of the visitation centre. 2 months later, and the calls and texts haven't stopped, I informed my attorney of the situation. She got us in for an emergency hearing. The next court date was set 6 months from the last one. Court day comes and my ex doesn't show up. The judge tells me they'll be sending a notice that his parental rights will be terminated if he doesn't comply with his court orders. Now it's the day of court again, and he actually shows up. But he's requested a DNA test to prove paternity because he believes our son is not biologically his. So that's the reason he didn't do his court orders. The judge accepted the request and said as soon as they get results, we'll be notified when the next court day is. Results finally come back and prove he is the father, but before the next court date, my ex's attorney says that he's decided to relinquish his parental rights and doesn't want to move forward with the court. So the case is closed and I have full custody. My ex's mom ends up taking me back to court to try and get grandparents' rights because she wants visitation and possibly overnight visits as well. The judge denies her request and tells her I've been the only one financially and physically responsible for the care of my son since he's been born, and it would be solely up to me if she has a relationship with him. This is where I feel like an idiot. My son is now a toddler, and she just contacted me asking if she could take her grandchild out for ice cream and a trip to the park. I asked what day she would like us to spend time with her, and she said, not me, just him and her. So I refused and said I'm uncomfortable with that because he doesn't know her. So now she and her son are both texting me, calling me selfish. So am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Her son gave up all parental rights. The court denied her a right to him, and you have all the legal rights over your child. So if she genuinely wants to see him and have a relationship with him, she'll just have to deal with you being there. 100% this. Grandma has no right to ask for unsupervised visitation, especially considering all the crap they put OP through in the first place. I would do the same, i.e. not allow her to see my child unless I was present at all times. The audacity of some people astounds me. I figure she wants to establish a relationship with her grandson so that she can file for grandparents' rights custody again. The other thing too, who's to say you allow this ice cream outing unsupervised, next thing you know, she's up and disappears with your son? This is exactly what I thought the second she said she didn't want mom there. I'm generally not one to jump to conclusions, but first, they wanted full custody. They showed blatant disregard for court orders by harassing you and refusing to comply with the ruling, and now she wants unsupervised time with your toddler? She's trying to kidnap your baby. Agree. Open your eyes, OP. There are some crazy grandmas around. They're showing you again what kind of people you're dealing with, so please protect your kid from them and don't ever let them be alone with your son until they show you that they've changed, which I doubt will ever happen. 100% this. Let the daycare, preschool, babysitters all know the names and faces of X and X's mom so that they won't inadvertently allow your son to leave the grounds with them. Grandma's behavior is suspicious, and I wouldn't put anything past her. My daughter's teens are on the same dance team. Their team won a competition on Sunday, and we're all so excited and proud of them. After the competition, my dad suggested we go out to eat and said he would pay for wherever we wanted. My older daughter, who loves seafood, has been asking for years to go to a restaurant with unlimited crab legs, but it's a very pricey restaurant, so we've never been able to. She immediately suggested this restaurant. My dad liked the suggestion. My younger daughter suggested we go to her favorite restaurant, a local Mexican restaurant, instead. We've been there many times as it's much more affordable. Knowing this would be a wasted opportunity, I said the older daughter's suggestion made more sense because it was somewhere we'd never been. My younger daughter complained she wouldn't like anything there, but I assured her the menu would have more than crab's legs. We got there and sure enough, many dishes didn't have seafood, including steak, the youngest's favourite. Even though there were dishes without seafood, the youngest daughter said she wasn't hungry because the restaurant smelled weird. So I ordered her steak anyway. The younger daughter pouted throughout the meal. She picked at her steak. The older daughter was very happy and completely absorbed in the crab legs. My mom tried to talk to my younger daughter about the competition, but she wasn't responsive. At the end of the meal, we were all stuffed except for the youngest. My dad told everyone to pick a dessert to go, except for the youngest, because she's clearly not hungry. I asked my dad to leave her alone, and he did, but she was already upset. When we got home, I tried to talk to her. I explained that this was a rare opportunity, and sometimes we must let someone else have something nice. I told her I could have taken us to the Mexican restaurant this weekend. She said it's not the same because the restaurant we went to the night of the competition is special, and we went somewhere she didn't like. I pointed out that she didn't know she didn't like it because she didn't try it. She says I know she hates seafood and that the restaurant is known for its seafood, so she wouldn't want to go there after a special event. She was annoyed Monday and Tuesday, but started to mellow on Wednesday. This morning she asked if we were going to the Mexican restaurant tomorrow. I said not this week because of her behaviour, but we'll see next week. She wasn't happy. Am I too hard on her? I think she was very rude to her grandparents, but I know when you're a teenager, everything feels like a bigger deal than it is. Should I have just let her behaviour slide and taken her to the Mexican restaurant? Not the idiot. You're teaching her a valuable lesson here. Too many people seem to have the mentality of, when I'm done being angry and move on, you all have to as well. As though her mood improving absolves her of any accountability for her actions while being crappy. Everyone's the idiot here. I don't think it was particularly well done to choose a place only one kid liked when both of them won the same competition and shared the achievement that earned eating out. It probably contributed hugely to the younger's attitude, since her wishes were entirely ignored and no compromise was offered. Just the older one got what she wanted. Were there any other places they could have cheerfully agreed to go? I disagree because the oldest has never been to the restaurant she wanted and the youngest always gets to go to her favourite. She'll learn that she can't always get what she wants. They both won the competition. They both were to be rewarded, but only one's feelings were considered for the reward. You told your youngest you wanted to celebrate her and to pick a restaurant, then ignored her once because you saw a chance to go somewhere you and your oldest wanted to try. Do I think she could have handled it better? Of course. But she's a teen, you're the adult, so you are the idiot. My husband, 39 male, and I, 35 female, have been married for 6 years. We don't have kids and don't plan on having any. That was a big point of contention with his parents as his mom kept asking when we would have kids. My husband finally told her he got a vasectomy and she stopped asking, but all the nagging about it soured my relationship with his parents, especially his mom. About 9 months ago, my father-in-law passed away. It was pretty sudden and traumatic for my husband and his family. His mom is heartbroken, and I've been trying to sympathise with her and support her as best I can. A few months ago, my husband and his siblings convinced their mom to sell her home and move into a smaller apartment or townhome. She eventually relented, but I don't think she wanted to do it. Her home hasn't sold yet, but they've been moving all of her stuff into storage, and her mother-in-law has been staying with her kids. She stayed with us twice, each for about 3 weeks. Those 2 visits were a nightmare for me. I hate having extended guests, and all the strenuous relationship with mother-in-law just got exacerbated. I know she's grieving, but she's not a pleasant person to be around right now, and I feel like she was taking a lot of her grief out on me personally. A couple of weeks ago, my husband took a long weekend along with his sister to take their mom on a trip to try and cheer her up. I used that time to myself to turn our guest room into a hobby room for me. My husband and I have been talking about doing that for years but never got around to it, so I finally took the initiative and got it started. It's not completely finished, but it's more of a hobby room than a guest room now. When my husband got back, he didn't even notice. It took him almost a week before he finally saw what I did. He immediately blew up at me. He accused me of doing this behind his back so that mother-in-law couldn't stay with us anymore. I reminded him that we'd been talking about this for years, so it's not like it was a surprise plan. I told him that mother-in-law would be getting her own place soon anyway, and she could just stay with his siblings until they get that stuff figured out. He told me that he knew me better than that, and he couldn't believe that I would be so underhanded and sneaky. He told me that this level of pettiness is not a good look, and he couldn't believe I would do something so juvenile. He told me that I should have asked for his permission first, and I told him I didn't need his permission to do something in our home that we'd talked about for years. He told me that I could try to lie to him all I wanted, but that he knew I did this out of spite against his mom. I told him that's ridiculous and that he's letting his mom's grief cloud his judgment. He's been threatening to change the room back so that his mom can stay with us again, but I told him not to touch a single thing and that he needs to focus that energy on figuring out his mom's long-term plans. You are the idiot, and yes, you absolutely did do this behind his back, so your mother-in-law can't stay with you anymore. Underhanded, sneaky, and disrespectful of your partner and your marriage. Your husband also lost his father. You know that, right? Why didn't you begin converting the guest room to a hobby room while your husband was at home if you weren't being dishonest? Sorry, but I'm not interested in what you're trying to sell because it doesn't smell right. She may be unpleasant, but she's grieving her husband and now the home that probably held a lot of memories for her. Stop pretending to be the victim here. Mother-in-law lost her husband. She's losing her home. Your husband lost his father. The entire family is trying to sort out what to do. And you essentially evicted the woman from your home by commandeering the spare bedroom for your stuff. How selfish, how insensitive and self-centered, how petty and mean-spirited. Wow. I, 35 male, have 2 sons, pre-tween and younger. My littlest one is going into kindergarten, and I was so excited to include him in our school shopping routine properly. He's always tagged along with his brother and got his own arts and crafts stuff to use at home, but there's a new layer of excitement this year. We always allow independence in choices as long as it doesn't become inconvenient. For example, if my kid picks out the 120 count crayons, we might redirect him to the 96 count instead, since that's easier to carry around in his backpack. Other than practicality, we don't try to persuade them in any way. It's always a fun experience and a great way to kick off the school year, and to relieve some of those "oh god, my baby is leaving me" fears for my husband and me with our kid. We usually grab quite a few things of the items on the teacher's wish list and make a point to wrap it up nicely as a little thank you present from our children to the educator spending the year with them. Upon receiving the school supplies list this year, there was a note made at the top saying all supplies should be exactly as listed, such as a 24-pack of crayons, as all items will be shared with every student in the class. This was confusing, as I bought the items for my children. I decided I would go through with our supply shopping tradition as normal, never getting anything less than what was required, of course, and send a note with both of my boys that their items would be their own and could be kept in their backpacks as usual. But unfortunately, when I expressed this sentiment to those around me, aside from my husband who was on my side, they weren't very receptive to the idea. Am I the idiot for not following the rules listed? You are the idiot. The teacher informed you that supplies would be shared. You're causing problems for their classroom. Why? Get them special things for home use, but for school provide the supplies as listed. It's not that difficult if you have the money. The kids can benefit from learning to share this one time. You are the idiot. You're making it unnecessarily difficult for your child and their teacher for no reason other than you don't want to. The teacher has these rules for a reason. Maybe you don't like it, but you're not the one teaching a classroom full of kids all day either. You're also teaching your kid that breaking the rules is okay when you just don't like them. Set a good example for them and show respect toward their teacher. Not the idiot. Schools have been doing this for a while now, and I understand why. Some kids can't afford school supplies and this helps. But I and other parents were getting almost monthly emails asking if we could send in more supplies because the class was running low. After the 4th month of this, I told the teacher I didn't mind pitching in extra every now and then, but I couldn't afford to send in more pencils, papers, crayons, etc. every month. She tried to shame me, saying I could afford it because my kids wore nice clothes to school. I told her I bought the clothes at the thrift shop and Goodwill, and she shouldn't judge everyone's financial status on what kind of clothes they wore. I hate redistribution. My boys are on the spectrum and won't use pencils that are broken or chewed on. They won't use broken crayons with no wrappers. This is a hill that they will both die on. I bought quality products, but my kids returned with dollar store flimsy folders, etc. So yes, I was that parent, and labelled their stuff but sent extra unlabelled. I would much rather have the teachers ask for one for the student and one to share. I'm way more than happy to do that. I live in a flat owned by my ex's parents because they like me and my ex asked them to. They only charge me around 5% of the price it would cost me to rent it from them. I've been dating my boyfriend for almost 2 years, and he asked to move in with me after he found out my ex moved back to London and was living in the same building as me. While I would love to live with him, I also know it would mean we would need to pay the full rent amount, which is just not affordable for me, even with him paying half. In addition, I don't want to move to another location because this flat is fantastic and I doubt I'll ever be able to live here again, so I want to enjoy it until I can't anymore. When I told him no, my boyfriend got super angry at me because he thought I was lying about the rent going up if he moved in, and he also told me I couldn't keep leeching from my ex's family my whole life when I wouldn't change my mind. Am I the idiot? What's the endgame here? You've been together 2 years, wanting to live together at this point is pretty normal. However, I wouldn't be comfortable being in a relationship with 2 years where we could not progress to the next step, living together, because of an ex subsidizing of my partner's living situation. On the other hand, I can't fault you for not wanting to give it up, but it may be at the expense of your current relationship. I just thought that. I wouldn't want to wait around for my partner for that long. Plus, moving in is basically a test run to see if you're compatible for the long haul. So she's kind of wasting both their time, honestly. OP, you are basically being paid by your ex's family never to progress romantically. I think your boyfriend is more serious about you than you are about him, but you may want to reconsider what your flat is costing you here. If I were OP, I 100% wouldn't move in with him. Living together is a massive step in any relationship. Do it because it feels right and both parties want to. The boyfriend can voice his concerns, many of which are valid, but living together solely because the boyfriend is jealous that the ex lives nearby are a recipe for disaster. Let's be generous and say he trusts his girlfriend. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. The problem is he doesn't trust the ex, who clearly isn't over her. Nobody gives an ex an essentially 1,000 plus check every month because of friends. Nobody. Likely the next time the boyfriend and girlfriend fights, the ex is at her door with a gallon of ice cream, a bottle of wine, and a shoulder to cry on. There's a reason couples have boundaries where exes are concerned. OP, move out not because of him, but for future relationships, with him or not. I would consider looking for a new flat.